of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, traditions are great things, and earlier tonight, if you're just tuning in on ABMI 8, we saw that before our meeting with the pinning of many of the members of our fire department staff. As part of our similar tradition, at our last meeting, we pinned Chief Fitzgerald of our police department, and tonight we will do the pinning ceremony for William Miller. Earlier this month, Mr. Miller appeared before our town clerk and swore that he would faithfully and impartially discharge the duties incumbent upon him as fire chief for the town of Bellingham. That he would be bound by rules and regulations as are now or may be established by the town of Bellingham and its fire department, and bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America, to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and to the charter and bylaws of the town of Bellingham, so long as he shall be chief of the department. He accepted the position of fire chief of the town of Bellingham effective June 15th, 2023, and tonight we formally welcome him and are here to observe his pinning ceremony. Chief, I understand you'll be pinned by your wife. Is correct.
Just really quick, thank you to everybody that came out, EFD, family, friends, thank you, PD. It's a great night, it's a great honor, but I'm gonna go back to a half an hour ago. It's not about me tonight, it's about the members of PFD. Congratulations, welcome, let's hit the road running. Thank you very much.
We're not naive enough to think that everyone's going to stay for the next hour for our meeting. A few minutes to let everyone return to the room.
If you want to take pictures with the flags, whatever, you're more than welcome to do that. Because our next agenda item is not until 7:15, so you guys have some time to do what you like.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom.
That one thing.
But I'm, yeah.
All right, in the spirit of being expeditious, we can probably move some things around in our agenda. Is that all right with everyone?
We can give you 2 seconds.
So I know that, I don't think you were, so at 7:15, we have to stop whatever we're doing and just read this. And then we can defer, that's the right word, defer, or postpone the meeting itself. We'll take a vote on that. And then come back to it, but we have to open the meeting just so that people know from a legal standpoint. So if we're in the middle of discussion, I'm starting to get annoyed. You want to bring it up? Yeah. That's what I'm doing. Just leave it. Okay. All right. I think we just. What's that?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, so we're gonna jump down to 7:30. On our agenda, we had year-end transfers. Our CFO notified us that she's not ready to finalize year-end transfers. We have till July 15th to approve year-end transfers between departments, so that'll be postponed from next week. The Zoom meeting is likely going to have to occur to do that. Next up is the bid awards.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the contract 2023 WMIV water main improvements various streets be awarded to low bidder, Salco Construction Corporation of Pembroke, Massachusetts.
Have a second?
Second, what's the amount on that?
Yep. Amount of $1,082,769.75.
Uh,
The rest of them, you know.
No, we just leave below.
Yep.
So we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0. Next, we have announcements. So we've been informed by Representative Soder that a date of August 24th has been arranged for the annual cookout. That event, do we have a start time on it? Not yet.
At the same.
And is there a limitation as far as how many?
I think so the senior center will promote it and they'll take reservations.
Okay. All right, so if you're available from the board. Next up, we've been notified that the town of Bellingham has received a $50,000 earmark from the office of Senator Becca Roush to replace the playground equipment at the town common, where the budget has not been finalized. That is not etched in stone, but where it is in the process gives a very strong likelihood that it's going to occur, so we, as a town, can plan on seeing that come through and make plans for the future. Next up under old business, and then we're not at 7:15. Hillary, you want to just talk about the executive session, what you want us to do there?
Sure, so we have a handful of executive sessions that have not been reviewed and approved by the board. So I think Michael, myself, and Beth will go through them and you'll review and approve all of them. And then we'll make a list, so at our next meeting in July, we'll approve and release or approve and not release executive sessions, and I'll have a list and we'll take a vote on them.
Questions on that? This is something that we generally do at least annually, preferably every 6 months, but my experience tells me that as we go into negotiating years, it's generally further apart than non-negotiating.
We haven't done it since June
years.
last year.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else have anything under old business that we would cover before we get into new business? All right. Kelly, I think the next one is new business was your thoughts.
Yes, so I asked the chair if we could put on the agenda tonight a discussion regarding remote meeting rules per 940 Code of Regulation 29.102. So that basically states that we offer, remote meeting, Zoom meeting per the state regulation that was continued. We can also put in our own parameters for a Zoom meeting. My thought was, I would love for people who are Zooming in to actually put their full name and their picture when they're zooming in. If people are here in the audience attending a meeting, they obviously are showing their faces and they are required to state their name if they're speaking. So my thought was, I think it's better to have people's names and faces up when people are zooming in, especially since, not today, but most of our meetings have been very well attended via Zoom, and sometimes we don't know who is zooming in.
One thought that came up at our last meeting, two things happened. One, we were Zoom bombed at the
Yeah.
beginning of the meeting and we had to remove someone. And then someone had a black screen and their name was Simple Simon. And I think it's a little disingenuous that if you want to attend, that we at least know who we should be recognizing as appropriate.
That is within our purview as a board to,
Right, so we just had someone is trying to connect and it's their initials are PS, so, huh? Okay. That's possible.
that's a really good example.
So, so I don't know if anyone has any thoughts, I'll give an example. When I'm on athletic directors meeting in the state of Massachusetts, my name literally says Michael Connor Bellingham because it's who I'm representing, because people can make the connection as to who we are.
When I attend any Zoom meeting for the town, it says Kelly H. Grant, Bellingham Select Board, so that any meeting that I'm zooming into, people know who I am and what I'm representing. So I just think it's a courtesy and it will make life easier for us.
And I don't think, well, you have any thoughts? I don't think it's something we have to vote on tonight, but I think the issue should be there and
No, no concerns.
no objection.
No, not at all. I mean, if you want to be part of the meeting,
Yeah.
you wanna tell, it's, whoever's a participating in the meeting, who you are, and then, and it wouldn't be a bad idea. At the meetings, you must speak, you also state your address.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I don't think putting a motion out tonight would serve or handle it legally. So maybe Joe or Lauren can write up something that we can make into a motion for our July meeting. And if there's no objections, or if you want to share it with the board in advance, if anyone wants to add or subtract from it, we can take a look at it in July.
there have been lots of other municipalities who have done this and even put even more stringent
Yeah.
parameters on it.
I would think KP probably has some boilerplate language.
Do you remember we had,
We do have one too.
we had KP Law come in, but that was when we were thinking about accepting remote participation, as a town. So we've never formally accepted this, code. We're still running on the governor's,
Emergency.
emergency order.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes a difference either. Whether we can set parameters.
We'll bet it out. Definitely. Just as we have one more minute before we get to our required public hearing. It struck me,
I just had one more thing under old business because I actually see Larry, and yes, I'm pointing to Larry back there. Old business, the special election is finally up on the town's website, all the information. However, I was wondering if it would be a good idea for us to do a code red call about the special election, and that papers are being able to be pulled. Just if you're not within the know, you're probably would have no idea that this is going on.
whether like,
Wondering if
you comfortable having it go out from you, or would you prefer to see it go from Beth or myself? Okay,
yeah, I think as town clerk, it makes more sense
Yeah.
to come from you. Yes,
great.
agreed. Thank you, Larry.
I've got two more things for that, but we are at 7:15. In accordance with chapter 140 Mass General Laws and the Bellingham Code of Bylaws, the Bellingham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, June 26, 2023 at 7:15 p.m. in the Municipal Center Arcane Meeting Room on the application of Edward Moore doing business with Bellingham Auto Sales to transfer the Class 2 used car dealer's license from 206-208 Mechanic Street to proposed address of 6 Blackstone Street. Hello, sir, how are you? You care to confirm who you are and introduce
Yeah.
yourself and tell us what's going on?
Ed Moore, I own Bellingham Auto Sales. And for the last 10 or 15 years, I've been specializing in just antique, classic, and special interest vehicles. And most of that is done on the internet. I have a website. And so I really didn't need the exposure and all the location where I was. I used to do the police towing. I had AAA, ALA at one time. I did repair work to get away from all of that. But in order to continue to do internet sales and stuff like that, do the title work, I have to maintain my license. So when I moved it to 6 Blackstone Street, I have a garage there, I have facilities. But I only service what I sell or what I'm getting ready to sell.
Your property is going to take on a completely different look in the next
Yes, it is.
12
Yeah.
to 24 months.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing is because it's 10.5 acres, so it was too big. I was afraid to lease it out to somebody not knowing what they would do, or if they could walk away and leave me with some big building and I couldn't afford the taxes on afterwards. So when this deal came along, I said, you know, I have 10.5 acres, I made a lighted intersection, I bought a sewer and gas. Shouldn't it be a hotel or a restaurant or something like that? And they said, you want commercial property, there's strip malls empty everywhere for sale. So they said, the only thing moving right now, industrial, which is warehouses, are residential. They said, we could put maybe 700 or 800 units here. And I said, no, you can't. That's not gonna happen. The thing with the warehouse, I know people don't like warehouses, but they pay a lot of taxes and they don't impact the school system. If they do create a little traffic, usually certain times a day. But for me, that was the best deal, and I thought it was the best deal for the town at the same time.
Well, separate from your application, I think having seen the plans, the widening of Maple Street as you approach Rapid Refill is a plus. And it's a spectacular entrance facade that's going to be going in, the welcome sign, welcome to Bellingham that I've seen and everything that's going
I
on.
was gonna say the renderings that I saw, I was very impressed with,
Yeah, they're really doing a first-class job.
and it will look amazing when it's all
And
done.
I have right now 7 curb cuts, and they'll all be going away. We're just gonna use the one that they need to get in.
I'm sure social media will beat us up, but I think the end result will look spectacular because some of the other properties that are further down, once the landscaping's gone in and berms are appropriate for the size of the property. So
I had companies that wanted to buy it because of the salvage license. They have a class 3 license, which I'll be giving up my class 1 license, which is new cars, and class 3 is salvage.
Yeah.
But this LKQ company that's all over the country now, they're going up to real chunk.
can I ask what happened to the vehicle that was in front that went both ways?
That went to rental. Yeah, that's down at John Tozzi's Mustang Farm.
Oh, I love that place.
Right, well, I didn't want it crushed. And I offered it to the Hudson Club and they didn't want to come and get it all the way. Ypsilanti, Michigan. And the other car, the Survival, one of Benson, that's at the Lane Motor Museum in Nashville, Tennessee. And it's already separated, being restored. They're doing a good job.
Questions?
None.
No, I have no issues with
My
it.
last comment is you've been a mainstay in Bellingham for your life,
Been here for, well, in August, it'll be 76 years.
so I thank you for that.
I lived in that gas station when I was a baby.
So I would ask for approval for a motion to approve the,
Wait,
oh, sorry, we need a motion to close the public
do we have
hearing.
any?
So moved.
Oh.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Does anyone in the audience, as in a public hearing, have any questions or comments?
I just want to make a comment. So his personal property is located in the business district as well. We have other people with licenses in town that operate that don't have a automotive setup, but they do internet sales. So he's applying for the same.
I think you have to look long and hard to find your garage, looking up as you drive up on Blackstone Street.
You do.
Yeah.
Well, after I cut all the trees, you can see it.
Yeah. Anyone else in the audience? I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Have a second? First and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. I'll now entertain a motion to the transfer of the class 2 used car dealer's license from 206, 208 Mechanic Street to the proposed address of 6 Blackstone Street.
So moved.
Second. First and seconded. No further discussion, I assume. All those in favor?
I
Opposed? None. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for coming in.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'll have that for tomorrow, boy.
Our next item, we are right on schedule at 7:20. We're actually gonna be ahead of schedule for the night, is the introduction of and recommendation to appoint Veteran Service Officer Art Campbell. Beth?
So it's long been an idea, Dennis's, to expand on the veteran services. And we have been looking into the different ways that we can do this. One of the ways that we brought Anna over so that she was available on Fridays. And she has hours in the office. She also is able to go out and do on-site work visits at different locations. Along with her hours, what we wanted to do was bring in someone who could give additional hours. So that's when we found Art, and I would like to have him give a very brief discussion, very brief.
Come on.
I know,
please don't
I know.
It does for me.
Just a brief review of your services and what you can bring to Bellingham, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Warren Art Campbell. I go by Art. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I'm a member of the Vietnam Veterans of America. It's a veteran service organization. I am a certified veterans agent with Massachusetts Executive Office of Veteran Services, what used to be called the Department of Veteran Services. So I am a certified VSO, a veterans agent for the towns. I'm also a national VSO. I'm accredited by the VA as a national VSO, Veteran Service Officer, and I'm able to assist veterans when they wish to, first of all, if I may step back, as a certified Veteran Service Officer, as I'm sure you're aware, the Veteran Service Officer, the Veterans Agent, is able to assist veterans getting the needs-based benefits from Chapter 115 in Massachusetts general laws. As a nationally accredited VSO, I can also assist veterans when they're seeking compensation or pension or grave or cemetery benefits from the VA. So I can assist those veterans in submitting their claims, pursuing their claims all the way through to approval or denial. If they're approved, that's a good sign. If they're denied, I can appeal those denials all the way up to the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims in Washington, D.C. as a member of this veteran service organization. So I think I bring a lot to the table in that not only can I help your local Bellingham veterans that might be in need, I can help any veteran in Massachusetts in getting their veterans benefits from the Veterans Administration, from the VA. I've been doing this for 6 months. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I'm retired. I've got time. I've got experience with Millville, Massachusetts. I am currently their veterans agent in Millville. I've checked with the Executive Office of Veteran Services. There is no ethical or any other reason not to be a veteran service officer with two towns, as long as they have separate hours and nothing interferes with either one. Is that short enough for you?
That's great.
I mean, I've got lots more to talk about, but I can answer any questions that you might have.
What I'm looking at doing is Art, Anna, and I will be working together to work out office hours. And that way we can cover more days during the week to make sure that we're able to expand. And we'll start out with the two of them on Fridays so that they can meet with the people who are used to coming in on Fridays and coordinating that way. Along the same line, I know that Mike has been anxious to move himself from the administrative assistant position where he's been helping Anna So we would be able to remove that position and free him up from that. So I'll be looking at setting up an office for the two of them where they can have the regular hours, and privacy, as we have talked about, is so important, so that we can service the vets more. And the two of them will be able to do outreach and things like that. So my recommendation is that I would like to have him appointed as the VSO for Bellingham, effective July 1st. That works for you, right? Okay. July 1st. Yes.
Mr. Chair, may I ask the question? So Mr. Hennessy at our last meeting had indicated that the town might not be in compliance. Would this bring us into compliance?
Anna, or
Help me out with the compliance issue. Did it have to do with the number of hours for a full-time agent or as a district?
district.
We are,
Yeah, it's not the district.
There-
Check with the.
yeah, there is- there-
Yes, no, it's I just with the state on Saturday. It's for any town, because I double checked on that, any town or district has to have a full-time veterans agent. And at 12,000 or over.
okay,
So that,
so I think you talked to Evan Frenicolas
Yes.
or John.
I do the
Santiago.
from Marlboro Sudbury.
Okay, so, and he says that you must have a full-time?
It's the state law is at 12,000 or over.
Yes.
You're supposed to have a full-time VSO.
Okay, did he define full-time?
We didn't.
Okay, I
We'll
think
do
that,
34 hours.
I think that's where the issue might come in,
Yeah.
because as a district, if a town is a part of a district, that district, which handles several towns.
This has nothing to do with the district.
Exactly, and so since it has nothing to do with the district, there are no hour requirements. Full-time means,
Well, it has to have full-time coverage for a VSO.
okay, so I think we can satisfy that.
I think so too,
I'm
because
positive
as far as
we can.
we're considered, full-time for us is anyone 20 hours and over. We will be offering 34 and a half hours to start out with, and we'll be able to flex accordingly.
Sure.
So I think that we would be good with that.
Well, two things come to mind before we take the vote. One, congratulations, Anna, again on passing the test.
Yes.
recently. And thanks to Mike for what he's done to this point
Very much. so.
and being an advocate for
I just
that.
have-
By all means, please.
So did you talk to Evan about working from Millville?
Yes,
Okay,
no, not working from Millville.
right, no, but
Working
sharing with
at the
Millville.
same time as Millville and another town.
Yeah,
It would not be considered a district. It'd be two separate appointments,
well, I
as
just,
long as the hours are
it was the same thing I
are
had.
not melded together.
Yeah. How familiar are you with OnBase?
I'm familiar with OnBase.
Right, so you have a working knowledge of it, or
Yes, yes, I'm familiar with OnBase.
how many cases do you have?
You want to know the truth? Who knows?
All right,
Millville has 3,000 people.
yes,
And Millville has 142 veterans by the census. And I started in Millville in November.
Okay.
And we had 0 veterans that were being taken care of by a veterans agent in Millville, 0. In January, I started getting veterans, or I started getting action for the job. I had a spouse, a widowed spouse. She wanted, or she needed help. I was able to determine that she was eligible for medical only. And then it turns out that, well, because she and her husband had never lived in Massachusetts, she was unable to accept that, or unable to qualify for medical only. So I've been going round and round for 6 months, trying to figure out a way to get this done. And just last 2 weeks ago or so, I found out that her husband was stationed in Massachusetts when he was in the Army briefly. So now he qualifies, he's a qualified veteran, and so therefore she is too. So I have that waiver or that approval now. I'll be able to pay her from January through June. And I've also got the approval for July, and then I'll be able to, after recertification, and take her through the rest of the year and then continue recertifying her. So now, as far as the amount of experience I have with OnBase, I can do OnBase, Mike.
all right,
Anna's also trying to get enrolled in that, so she's in the process awesome.
We lost, I want to say about 30%. The predecessor here was one of them. We switched over from the old state system, Vismas, to the on-base. It wasn't just here. It was my longtime admin assistant in Sudbury, couldn't do it anymore. He left. Bunch of other VSOs left. The program is not very user-friendly. Some of your ideas for outreach?
Outreach, I'm glad you said that, Mike, and I'm glad that you had brought that up. That's something else that I would like to bring to Bellingham, some, if not any, if you don't have outreach now, I'd like to bring more outreach. I go to Worcester on the third Saturday of every month. I go up to Worcester to New Hope, which is a veterans.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Bill Moore?
Sure. And I was up there last week with Will Valier. And then Donnie Jarvis does I think Donnie does the first. No, Donnie does the second, Will does the fourth, and I'll be doing the third in Worcester. So that is one example of outreach. That's not necessarily a Bellingham project to go there, but that indicates that I'm available for outreach. As far as Bellingham specifically, I would like to see things like I don't even know what your program is for Veterans Day, but I would like to really work on a big program for Veterans Day. I'm not talking humongous stage productions, but I would like to make sure that we're able to access and enable all the veterans in our area, not just Bellingham, to be able to attend our Veterans Day ceremonies. A little too early or a little too late for July 4th and Memorial Day. As far as other outreaches, I would like to talk to the town. I would like to get with, say, for instance, and I haven't talked to anybody, so maybe I shouldn't mention names, but I would like to get with a coffee shop or two or three and see if we could get them to sponsor a veteran coffee at, 10 o'clock on Tuesday mornings at their every first Tuesday at their place. Somebody else might sponsor a veterans coffee at 2 p.m, perhaps at their place. And this veterans coffee would just be an opportunity for guys and ladies, please forgive me, for veterans to get together and talk about their shared experiences and, share some camaraderie. I think those are some areas of outreach that we could develop more and more. Other outreach areas, a food pantry. I don't know if Bellingham has a food pantry or not. If they do, it might be run by the Council on Aging. I'm not really sure who runs it, but I would like to. I'm sorry, it's a church.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, then I would like to see if our efforts as veterans agents in Bellingham could increase the inventory in that food pantry, and then we can also offer it more and more to veterans so that it becomes a veteran resource as well as a community resource. And of course, not necessarily based on, but of course, we would be contributing to the inventory in the food pantry as well. Other outreach, I haven't thought of them all yet.
It's all good.
One of the things that we were talking about is because the end of June is when you close out the 115. End of the month. Okay. And so with you staying until June 30th, that will help get that.
Yeah, close the year out, everything.
Yeah, that would be much appreciated.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
What is the term of the appointment?
Can I just say something? If the new veterans agent in touch with Jim Hastings and the VFW, because they do a coffee hour every month up there for the veterans. And that's a very, very active group of people, the VFW.
Certainly.
And Jim Hastings.
Thank you.
I didn't want to get in trouble.
Mike have to abstain from the vote.
Yes.
That being the case, what is the term of the appointment? Is
Yeah,
it a
but
1 year
yearly.
term? I'll make a motion to recommend the Veteran Service Officer, Campbell.
So moved.
Second. First and seconded. Assuming there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, none, 301. Mike's abstaining as the current. Veteran Service Officer.
I honestly, I've heard nothing but good things about you.
Thank you, sir.
Pop up.
Thank you.
Do we need to
Just
do?
on base is very, very tricky. You're gonna want to rip your
You
hair.
know what? But I've got Tracy's phone number in my phone.
Don't abuse it.
Try
You
not
know where
to.
to find it.
Yes, you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Art, and thank you, Anna, for staying.
It's a pleasure, and I assure you I'm gonna do my best for the town.
I know you will.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks for.
Thank you.
It's an honor to serve. Thank you.
So just a couple other things as we get back to the new business section of the meeting. One thing that struck me, just to say publicly, I mentioned this at the break with Hillary and to Beth, that we probably need to make plans to do the quarterly pinning ceremonies of our rank and file and appointments for the police and fire as they occur, that we do diligence for the process. Or you can just remind us and see if there are any, and we'll move past them if there aren't during any particular quarter.
Yeah, business. I just wanted to ask, and I know it's kind of a touchy subject regarding the breach that we had. I just want to ask one question formally. Why, because I've asked around, why was it 10 days before the select board was formally notified?
Because we were consulting with our lawyers at the time.
Okay, all right, and then the other,
By law, it's very limited of what can be said.
even to the chief executives for the town? And then the other question, I just want to bring up the point, when, if a member of the select board is asking a question, and this had nothing to do with you, but I want to just go on record, it's not wise to not be fully truthful when the select board knows what happened, because when I was questioned, when I was informed about it, I did ask a question, and I was blatantly lied to about it. I just want to make sure that just everybody just is truthful when it comes to this sort of thing. Because I had information that I knew, and the person outright told me that it wasn't true, and I had 3 sources telling me this information.
Sometimes there's a little more to it
Okay.
than what we can delve into. I mean, we're bound, there's also federal and state laws that we're bound to according to that.
Okay.
And
It's also very interesting that you're bringing this up in an open meeting rather than just having a conversation.
I've
Like you're
asked-
embarrassing people.
I've
So-
asked multiple people this, and I even spoke to the chairman about it. I asked everybody I was told to ask, and I just wanted to bring it up just to see, just because it just, unfortunately, I'm sure if you were in that position, it just doesn't sit right. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Just,
I,
no, I was speaking. I don't disagree with Mike in the point that there was a lag
Mhm.
in telling the executive board. In hindsight, knowing the investigative agencies that were involved, I accepted it. But I would say that I did not appreciate not knowing.
Mhm.
And that's,
And-
and you know what, when you and I talked about it, it was like you were instructed not to. And
it's one of those things also that fortunately, it was a first time for us. I have heard of other towns that they've been hit 3 or 4 times. For us, fortunately, we were doing what we were told and trying to
Good.
do what we needed to do. So, and we do appreciate the confidence that the board had in us as we were going through it.
yeah, people are free to ask their questions.
Absolutely.
Respect
I
that.
think you asked the question. Asking. So,
All right, so the quarterly pinning, Mr. Spizzato was here, but, this is kind of under old business. The housing authority has a vacancy. And, under Mass General Law, Lauren tells us that it's very similar to how boards are appointed. They're a quasi group, and I liken this to the situation when Cheryl Gray stepped off the school committee 8 or 10 years ago. There was a joint meeting between the then Board of Selectmen and the school committee to interview and appoint a replacement. In that case, only the Board of Selectmen's position is a special meeting, and hence the 9 members of the school committee and select board, where the housing authority is somewhat a quasi group because they are both elected and appointed. Lauren indicated that both the housing authority and board of select board should hold a joint meeting. Both of them would go into open sessions and appoint a replacement. for the open seat. The rule stipulates that if no action is taken by the housing authority within 30 days of said appointment, that it's incumbent upon the select board to make the appointment, not the housing authority. That all kind of gets thrown out when you factor in that we had to wait for council to tell us when the 30 days would start. We didn't know. There was a little confusion as to was there an open vacancy or wasn't there an open vacancy. So that being said, we need to communicate with the housing authority to schedule a meeting, either as part of our July meeting or a separate meeting, where we need to solicit candidates. We have 4 candidates that weren't selected previously.
For the tenant position.
This would be for the vacant 2-year term that exists. So that candidate would have to be appointed to fill the vacancy, run again at the next regular election, and only to fill the remaining balance of the 2-year term. I've got it all written.
Okay, good.
But
You got that covered.
I'll forward you Lauren's comments with my notes, but we need to
So-
schedule some.
30 days, the housing authority should have,
The housing authority
Should
should
have
have
made it-
notified us of the vacancy, but because of what transpired with which position was up,
what was the vacancy, Mr. Hall?
Mr. Hall, when he opted not to return,
So
when
he's
Mr.
not
Remillard
returning.
stepped down, Mr. Hall tendered his resignation.
Okay.
They thought that they voted at their last meeting that they would keep the position open for the balance of the term, but they don't have the authority to do that. Only the Board of Selectmen's position has the authority to wait for the next election.
Okay.
So a little confusing, and I'm not sure any of the candidates are going to want to run, but we do need to advertise it. We should probably reach out to the 4 members who weren't selected to see if they would like to come in and state their interest.
Okay.
Shouldn't take that long. I think we could probably do it in conjunction with our meeting. Or
On
do
the
it,
17th.
17?
maybe start at 6:30 and have a joint meeting for that purpose, and then adjourn that meeting and have our meeting at 7 o'clock if that
That's fine.
works for everyone.
Yeah.
So then we'd all vote on the 17th,
Right, well. it'd be
us with the
8
housing
members.
authority?
Yeah.
So Hall was supposed to be, he was supposed to be done in what, 2025?
2025. But because it's an appointment, we can't appoint them to go to 2025. We go until the next election and then they run to fill the term for 1 year.
So the next election maybe.
In May, yeah.
I just don't know if he is and maybe is.
Yeah, that's fine.
So 6:30 July 7th.
17th.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see if that works for the
Yeah.
housing, but they're gonna have to make it work because we're gonna be outside the 30 days anyways.
Right.
That said, we have separating the town administrator's report from the HR director's report. That if we could hear from the HR component.
Yeah, and one of the things I do want to correct is the question that you had as far as what happened. It was not a breach.
Okay.
Okay, so just to make sure that
Well, it wasn't reached, so we stopped it. We
Okay,
got stopped.
it just was not,
Okay.
okay. Everything was handled the way it should be, and-
Okay.
and there was none. Okay. HR. I'll start with some of the, due to some of the changes in the makeup of the building, the town, everything, I'm looking to do some changes in various departments. Some of it is in preparation for retirements. Some of it is just because the town is growing the way it is.
Could I interject for 1 minute?
Uh-huh.
I just want to clarify that this is separate from the executive session component.
Yes.
Why this part is public and the other HR issues will be handled under executive session.
Correct,
So
thank
this
you.
is the HR.
This is HR.
HR issues that are for
That
public
are-
consumption, that they're not
Yeah.
subject to negotiation.
It's just making some changes. With the assessors, what I'm going to do, I have worked with Mary, who is in charge of the finance section. And in preparation for changes coming into that department. Right now, we have a grade 10 who is considered an assessment technician. We're going to make that, and it's in the ASME clerical union. We're going to change the duties to make it a true clerical administrative assistant. we've been unable to fill the position the way it's set up now because it right now it's asking for a lot of technical skills for assessors. And you need to go for training, for classes, certifications. So it's kind of scary for someone who wants to come in as an administrative assistant to come in and have to learn all this. So we're going to make an administrative assistant, and then we're going to hire the assistant assessor. And then we will have the assistant assessor who can go out in the fields. Betsy will do her work as far as what she's doing on the upper level, and we'll have support staff in the office. Right now, we're using senior work off. And with the growth that the town is having now, it just isn't working. We've got to get people out in the field, and that's what we would be doing. I've already talked with the unions. ESME is very pleased with the fact of making it more of a clerical, because again, we'll be able to get it filled easier. We'll be able to have someone come in who can run the front desk, who can do the mailings, and can answer the phones and do those things that will help as a support staff. So that will make that department more efficient. In the planning and zoning and conservation, I've been working with Tim. We're looking to add a new position of administrative assistant to that office. Right now, we've got Amy and Ann in senior volunteers in the office to do a lot of the clerical. And Amy's been picking up a lot of the clerical. We'd like to be able to have someone who can do the answer the phone, do the mailing, do the postings of the meetings, do the Dropbox, so that the other departments in the conservation and zoning and planning can actually work on more of the higher level stuff. So that's what we're looking to do there. I'll be talking with the union about adding a position. They will be very happy to have another position.
May I ask a question? So the administrative assistant for the zoning, planning, conservation, is that a full-time?
Right now,
Or
we're looking
part-time?
at, again, keep in mind, full-time 20 hours or more.
Yeah.
So we're looking, and they vary throughout all the municipal center. We're looking at probably between 28 and 30 hours, is what
Okay.
I think we're looking at. Again, if we need to expand it, we will, and the union will be more than happy to allow us to increase their hours.
That's for that's for the board assessor's office as well as the planning.
No, this
No,
is
okay,
this
that's
is
what
two separate things.
Two separate.
Yeah. We're on to the lower level now.
Okay.
So that would be able to bring that office into having staffing, because right now, if Amy or Ann are on vacation, then we have a senior work off sitting there helping the public, or it's closed. So we want to make sure that we have, and again, as Tim can vouch for, it's exploding. I mean, we need people to be able to help with the support staff.
Tim has a-
Tim has a question.
Can I just say something? So I know probably everybody knows the function of the assessor's office, as a whole. So she's been there alone for a long time. So all of the function from the development in town ends up in the assessor's office. So they have to take every permit and capture the growth so we can tax it. And what she's up against now, she's been alone for so long. We're trying to get a balance in that department to get the thing moving. There's a lot of assessments that is so far behind because the amount of growth. And she's in there, she has to map it, draw it, and get it into the system. And we try to, by June 30th of every year, we try to capture as much growth as we can, as much progress on the jobs. We capture it all to just maximize, the dollar that is being developed out there. So we try to capture it all. So that's what we're up against with the assessor's office. So I think the faster I don't want to say the faster, but as soon as we can, get that office organized, we need to do that. It's only in the best interest of Bellingham, As far as the inspections department, we're also trying to organize that. We've been talking about this between myself, Dennis, and Jim before Jim departed to organize the whole inspections department. And and to organize it. And then Jim's departure kind of threw a wrench into it, but we have to move forward to that because it's just, they're running independently and it's gonna be much more efficient. So,
Any questions on those so far? Okay. And then, as we know, in the treasurer collector office, our treasurer collector is leaving. We have an assistant treasurer collector. So, that will be a move for that. And then we will open up again, an open position to fill anything in that office. So that one will be a nice smooth transition. So for those, I think I need, before I go on to the next group, I think I need a recommendation.
Can we talk about what the financial impact is? to the budget?
I have to go into negotiations on some of those. So I need to have the approval to start with it, and then I can go.
And all the positions are 35 hours.
They will be, well, in the assessors, they're 37.5 hours for that position. The one for downstairs conservation and planning, like I said, that will be between 28
30 on the high end.
Yeah. The one in the treasurer collector, it's just going to be, that's already in the budget.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's there. The one in downstairs with the planning, zoning and conservation, we're looking at, because we're having the retirement coming up from conservation, we're looking at the funding that's in there, so we're hoping to not have any impact to the budget. It's going to be more of a rearranging. Same with the treasurer collector. You know, everything is
Yeah.
just kind of moving around. So I don't have hard numbers yet, but we're planning to work within what we have.
So really the only thing we're truly adding is in the assessor's office for monetarily speaking.
Yes. That would be the true brand new
Yeah.
position that we have that is outside of the budget. And as I've said, I've been working with Mary. She's confident that we can do this. And it's one of those things we really have to. And you get to the point where you can't not support the staff and have the residents not have information. When they come in and they're senior sitting there, because we don't have the staffing, you know.
Well, and where there are some vacancies, retirements coming up, it seems like a good time to try and do this and rework all this so that things are more efficient and everyone feels supported.
And that's really what we're doing, is we're looking, now's the time to do it, because we do have the movement and everything going on, so we're with that. So I think probably I'll need the approval of the board to go ahead with those. And, so I can start posting and doing the movement. So that-
I make a motion to approve the additional positions as presented by the director of HR.
Second, any further discussion on those? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0.
Thank you. On to the next one under my HR hat is the fact that I have gone through, as we talked about, having consultants, professional consultants doing the research interview process for town administrator, the CFO, potentially the town planner, and that's a hard one. I have gone through I've reached out to 3 different companies. The one that I'm going to recommend and enter an agreement is the Community Paradigm. They're one that, Paradigm or
Paradigm.
Thank you. I say it wrong every time. I'm so sorry. They have worked with many, many towns all around. And I do have some information on what their approach is. So you can see with what they'll be doing is they'll be doing the search not through a committee, a town committee. They call in professionals, and You can pass, there's more.
Oh, there's
Should I
more
take them all?
backwards.
What they'll do is they'll call in professionals who know the different fields we're looking for. They will go through, screen the different candidates who apply. We do not, as the board or the town, see any of the applicants or resumes due to confidentiality. This company will go through and pick out usually the top 3 to 5 for us, then to start. Board will then start the interview process on a town level. This will give us the best chance of finding the best candidates out there. I don't feel that we have, and it's not a bad thing, we just are not, we're not a company that does these searches. They know the people, they know the players, they know what we're looking for. They'll sit down and, as you'll see in there, they talk to the select board, they talk to different department heads to find out just what the town is looking for and the makeup. I think it's one of these, with this position, it's critical, with both of them, it's critical that we get the very best candidates out there to come to Bellingham, and this is the way we need to go at the service best.
I think what I'm just seeing here as well is they'll meet with each member of the board individually to discuss with us what our wishes would be. And they also get stakeholder information. I mean, I like this process because it completely eliminates any politics or anything out of the hiring of this very, very, very important position, but it still gives the board the final say in doing those interviews.
This is exactly the process that Dennis and I did through with the fire, with the police. We were required to because of civil service.
Mhm.
With the fire, we opted to do this for this exact reason. We weren't educated in what was needed for doing the search. We didn't have the time or the ability to reach out to all these people to find out who's the best and how to avoid any conflict and how to get the what we want for our town. The biggest thing is that we want to serve town the best that we can. This is the way we can do it. One of the things that they said is that these people will actually call and recruit people. So it's not like I can sit there and call all these towns and town administrators and say, you know, I have an opening. They'll reach out and they'll talk with them, and they'll go through and glean if they feel it's not a fit to what the board wants in those interviews, then they will continue looking. So that's my pitch.
And according to this, they'll also take into consideration what our charter and bylaws say, and if you look online at some of these recruitment agencies, and particularly Community Paradigm, if you actually look at some of their, because I did some research myself, if you go on their website and look at their positions that they're looking to get resumes for, the descriptions can be upwards of 5 pages long, and they also go into describing the town in full detail based on what we give them, our census information, so that anyone who applies knows full well what is going to be expected. And
If I could add, I sat in on the meeting with Paradigm, and for people in the audience, it was described as a 16-week process. The first 2 weeks of them doing the background information of the town, interviewing us. 4 weeks of it posted on that last page, but summarizing. 4 weeks where it's advertised. Their recruitment process, another roughly 4 weeks where people can be vetted. Very similar to the assessment center for the police department. They hire current and retired town administrator types, or people familiar with the role, to be the first level interviewers. They then take that list and they narrow it down to a shorter list, as Beth said, 3 to 5. And what struck me is that for the finalists at a select board meeting, they would interview the finalists in front of us, asking the questions in what I would term HR terms, so that no mistakes are made. And then the board is able to provide follow-up questions, questions of clarity, and arrive at that. So the select board, and I would advocate the superintendent of schools, just simply because of how much he deals with them. And it's a perspective I don't think we have, participate, but he also noted that most town administrator contracts have 60 to 90-day notice clauses. So if this process took 16 weeks, we would be looking at July, August, September, the end of October before we appointed someone. And then unless the town released them early, or they had some other language that they didn't, we likely wouldn't have a new town administrator until on or about January 1st. Just simply because of the process. I know at the last meeting, there was some discussions of waiting. But if you took that even further, we would not have a town administrator in place until March 1st or April 1st, and they would be useless in preparing for town meeting next May. So, although the timing is not ideal, on a side note, I would say that our town administrator is home now and doing his recovery, which will be lengthy from home, which is best news I've had in quite a while relative to that situation. The cost is incredibly reasonable because it's under $10,000, which if you think about the private sector, it's generally a third of the recruitment process. They priced it, or the principals price it under the $10,000 threshold, which requires multiple agencies to be looked at, and that's still looked at multiple from that standpoint. And they will look at both our CFO position, which is what they do very well, and then the town planner is a little on the extreme of some of the things, but they still touch on it, so they still have to get to that point. I noted in my notes that of the towns that have done searches, 70% of the towns that do external searches use Community Paradigm in Massachusetts. There is a firm in New Hampshire, there's one in Bourne, and then is it BU Northeastern that?
UMass Boston
UMass
has a
Boston.
department.
So I think we've gotten from a little sidebar. They just recently finished the one for Hopedale. Hopedale's search was in the 130,000 range, and they didn't get as strong of candidates as we would. If we were to look at Framingham or Lowell or Lawrence, that price range is recommended to be in the 225 to 250 range. Their recommendation is in line with what Dennis makes now. I use the term that you took a hometown discount because Dennis has been in that role. But they indicated to get someone highly competent to replace Dennis, we would need to be paying what Dennis makes now. So the recommendation was in the 190 and not put a range, basically plus or minus, which would give you the latitude to go at 180 to 200. But as Beth said, their role is they wouldn't be calling Hopedale because they just placed someone in there, but we might get someone who is out of town and has been the town administrator for several years, making 130 to 150,000, looking to make a jump to a bigger town, but someone who has the role. I attended the charter meeting, and it was noted that one town administrator in the state didn't have a college degree.
Only 1 out of 351.
So it was recommended by Paradigm that the qualifications do include recommended masters in public administration. Now, that obviously is predicated on what the charter says and what their recommendation that they are looking for the most ideal candidate.
So it would be based on the charter as it stands right now, because it was passed over at town meeting. The charter now does say that education and experience are a requirement. That's right there in the charter, but then it would be I mean, up to us to decide if there was a minimum, but education's right there in the charter. And most, if you look at any ads for people looking for a town administrator, and you can look on the MMA website and pull them up. 100% of them are master's degree required with 7 to 10 years experience just to come into one of these roles. So obviously, education and experience are going to go hand in hand with this position, because you can't do this position without the experience or the knowledge that the education is going to give you.
And that's what these people will vet out.
Right.
To make sure that what they have is the correct need.
Mr. McLaughlin, I understand that your hand is raised, but given how the last meeting spiraled out of control, we're not.
This is just one quick question for geographical scope. Are they looking just at Massachusetts, New England, the nation? Or?
They will thank you for the question. They will advertise in MMA.
They do MMA, which is the Massachusetts.
Municipal Association.
Yeah, and it's so that where everyone goes who does municipal jobs and looking for them, it's in this advertisement. They did say that they had looked at, a few people had come from like Rhode Island, because of course it's so close. But again, as Kelly said, it all depends on the experience that ties into Massachusetts. Now, just Rhode Island or some other state, they need to have understanding of the mass laws and the mass general laws.
Thank you for the question. From the board.
I was gonna mention something, so currently, we have a town administrator. So, yep, and, so what I suggested like last time, is, I'm not against, that we can post it on MMA to ourselves, but I think, that we should still kind of, hit the brakes a little bit, as I recommended. I think, that we should get a citizens committee. And then, at least we can open up to the, or just get the citizens involved too. And,
No. I'm sorry, no disrespect, but.
yeah,
but
absolutely. That's why we have this discussion.
The HR is my job.
Yeah.
And this is what I do. This part of hiring this company is what we do and what we do to the higher positions. And hiring professionals as opposed to the citizens, that's why we want to go to a company, is because they are professionals. And they will keep any of the personal out of it. They'll bring us the best candidates, which is what we want. We're going to bring it to the board. Will be a public meeting when they have the interviews. So people will have the opportunity to see these people. It's no different than when a company hires a CEO. They're going for the best candidate, and that's what we want. We need the best candidate, and this is the best way to do it, and the most responsible way. As an HR director, this is the most responsible way to look for a town administrator and a CFO.
I'm not arguing with that, absolutely, I take the consideration, but it's the town administrator is a select board appointment. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and we were so lucky to have Dennis for 30+ something years. And I think, that we have to do every possible way, do our due diligence to find the next Dennis. That's
So
yeah.
This
I
is
can address
exactly
it.
what you wanted to do,
So
use the company.
Friday, I asked that
Yeah.
question. What happens when you put together a citizens committee? And his words were that you were going to add 4 weeks to the process. And because you are trying to coordinate schedules, their plan of action is they bring people in for 1 hour increments. So if we were to do this as recommended a standalone select board meeting, and start at 3 o'clock You do 3, 4, 5, 6 if you have 4, and then discussion afterwards in a public setting. And when you have to coordinate schedules, it did put me, I'll use the term, put me in my place relative to the description of they have specific questions that they want to ask, and the vetting of that is coming from people who do the job. And I was skeptical, and I think went into the meeting trying to represent what came out of our last meeting. But that's the process that they put out there, and was not averse to doing it, but recommended against it because of the delay that it would cause. And there's also the legality of asking the wrong types of questions.
It's also when we have, he did bring up also with the fact that we would be using them and they will be doing the initial vetting due to confidentiality. We don't see any of the resumes, so that takes us out of the picture as far as any personal feeling for it. Anyone can apply to them. It's not saying that they can't apply to them. Anyone can apply to this company when they see the posting. There's absolutely nothing that says that they can't. We're using these people as a resource. This is my recommendation, that we use these people as a resource to get this done the way it should be. And we don't have the luxury of putting it out that many more weeks. It's not rushing it. We talked about this when Dennis was here, that this is the way that we would do it. There's absolutely no rushing of this process when you can see the layout of it. We've talked about it. I talked about it with Dennis over and over, that this is the most fiscally responsible way to do this. We get the person that is best for us, not counting the fact that a municipality is completely different from private sector. You can't bring someone in from the private sector who can give a good sense of what is handled by a town administrator or town meeting. There's a lot more to it than that. That's what these people do. He's done this. He's worked. I mean, he was a school superintendent. He was town administrator. I mean, he was everything. He's bringing that skill to us.
One thing that Beth pointed out was that using them avoids the frequent flyers because they're involved in so much of the process. And it allows more candidates to come out because they know that it's, for want of a better term, confidential. If you think about Mr. Morano recently, was a finalist at Kingsville. And it takes a lot for yourself, put yourself out there to say, one, I'm looking for another job, and two, to lose that job when you potentially want it. So if we were to get 20 or more candidates, the vast majority would not be disclosing to their towns that they were looking for a job under this scenario. That probably would see a list of candidates. We could probably, but it wouldn't be coming before us.
I didn't even see the candidates for the fire chief. I saw absolutely nothing until the ones that they said, okay, these are the best ones for the town, for the fit. Here you go. Now you talk.
But that's the dumb process. So I'm just gonna make a 2 point again. You said it's obviously, it's not to bring private. I don't want to bring anybody private. I want to bring the citizens of Bellingham. At least they're in the mix. That's the first point. The second point is that is somebody I really look up to, admire to, and then as I said, we've been blessed to having him for 35 years. And I'm hoping for maybe just he'll be still in the mix at some point. And obviously, I understand that, it's.
He'll be in the mix. I mean, I spoke with him over the weekend, and his recommendation was to go with. He agreed with my decision to do this company. This is what he has said all along.
This is the process that he wanted. May I add a couple of comments? So one of the concerns is if you you know, it's been mentioned before that, you know, we're elected by the citizens. The
Yeah.
citizens elect us to speak on their behalf. Well, we have that opportunity to do that using this firm because they're gonna sit down individually with each of us and have an interview with us to ask us our opinions and what we think, and they will take that into consideration. So you very well could go out to your citizens and ask them what is important to them and bring that back to your interview. So they'll consider that. A citizen is not going, has absolutely no idea the amount of work that a town administrator does. They would have even some of us on this board probably have no idea the amount of stuff that Dennis has done over the last 35 years.
You do a lot.
And this company will use town administrators to do all the initial work for us. And like Beth said, and Michael has pointed out, all of the interviews will be in a public forum for any of the citizens to also hear at the same time that the finalists at the same time for us to hear it. There are a lot of professionals that will not apply for a position if there's a citizen group involved because of the confidentiality in these high-level positions. They want to go through a vetting process with a firm and be sure they are finalists before coming forward for all those reasons that Michael had just said.
With fire department was probably a good example when it goes out that you're looking for a new fire chief. The unions all want to know, or the firemen, are they just putting it out there and are they going to promote internally and then people don't, unless you disclose it, it's an open process. Mr. Bissonnette?
Just want to interject something. Seeing that the last board of selectmen that hired Dennis, I was one of them. And
Thank you for doing that.
you're going down the correct road. Because sensitivity of that particular position, you know, that we exactly had it straight. They're not gonna apply, you know, if some things, because sometimes, you know, you work in one place. You see a position, but many years I was on the board. You get them down to the like best 5, the best 3. I look to it as if you being a superintendent of schools. It's the same thing. They did take care of the school. We have to count on the selectmen to take. Like I said, it's one board that feels it, but I agree with you 100%. I went through the process. I know. I mean, nobody stays in this thing 30 years like, you know, like Dennis did. Again, you know, it's important to do a lot of vetting. It's important. Certainly have a right to your opinion because you're representing the people. But I would not go for an ad hoc committee. Citizens are picking it because it's very specific. It's very, you're gonna see a lot of different people when you're looking at the resumes. And you'll be looking at a pool of professionals that can do it. And that makes it, you don't want your hands tied. You want to get the best professional person.
Suggest, and I respect the opinion, is when Paradigm interviews each of us, have a greater discussion with Mr. Petron about that, and, you know, if.
And then we'll make a decision after that.
Well, I think the process is there, but I think they'll have a better perspective than us sharing secondhand what that was with,
Yeah, I mean, they'll set up a time, they'll come in and talk to each of you, and you can voice your concerns, and they can address them as they see, and work with you on it.
You can only be interested when you start. When that process starts, going through that process, and you'll see different layers of what's going on. You will come down to probably the best choice for both participant
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Bissonnette.
Thank you.
That's
why I came in.
Thank you.
So is Paradigm already been contracted or are we gonna have to vote on it?
We're under the HR, I've already
Okay.
done an agreement with them.
Okay.
Moving on, if we can, I'm sorry about the thing more, before we get to the administrator's report.
No, I think that was, oh, one other thing. I'm sorry, Bernadette. Poor Bernadette sitting here. One of the,
Got chicken fingers in my car for Primo.
So,
Bern,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, so let's go back to the Mike's question. So you already signed a contract with
yep,
them?
I've already gone into an agreement with them.
Oh, you did, okay.
We have Bernadette here, and she has her maintenance, her guru, as the custodian, Jim Marr, who is retiring June 30th. Yep. So as part of the process, under the HR stuff, we posted internally, as we're required to, and then externally, Bernadette and the trustees talked to, did interviews. And they have selected Bradley DeLuca based on the usual conditions that the board approves, that they go through the process that we have set up for new employees. So I just wanted Bernadette to give a quick overview of Bradley and.
Sure. So Bradley is a young man. He's an Eagle Scout. He was a custodian at Tri County in Franklin. His references checked out. I think he's going to be a wonderful addition.
Yeah, that's, I was.
When is he at the facility?
When does,
You'll start, are you gonna have him overlap?
yeah, so Jim is officially retiring, but he's gonna work part-time to do some overlap, the training, through however long we need him, for a couple weeks to get things settled. And it depends on when he can start based on background checks and physicals and all those other things as to what his start date will be. The schedule is gonna be on us, meet with him on Wednesday to talk about schedule, because it can be flexible based on what the library needs are and what his schedule is. So we're gonna sit down and talk about the schedule.
How many hours a week is that usually?
It's 30, yeah, the union contract is 30. It has been funded traditionally for 32 and a half, so we'll figure out what works for both of us. And with input into that, I'll figure that out.
So that's, it's really good that we had a lot of applications. Considering it, and it went up and we received a lot of them very quickly. So this is good. So with the board, I would ask that the board approve the recommendation of Bradley DeLuca for the library custodian. This is an asked position, so it's under the asked contract.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can go have dinner, Bernadette.
I was mostly joking.
Mostly. Okay, so I think that's everything for HR. And now for the town administrator's report. Look for that hat. Silver Lake, I had a meeting with Jesse and Sean. And just so you know, Mike, I had already had it set up, so give me a call. And,
Yeah, I
and
got
I'm usually on top of the,
My ears got torn off.
yeah, but that's, if you had called, then
Well,
they
that's
had it
why
all set up.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple things going on with Silver Lake. And just to solve any of the chatter that's out there, passes can still be bought in person. Because I've heard chatter that we no longer will do in person, which means that the elderly or people who don't want to do it can't get them. They still can get the passes in person.
But not at the gate.
They'll, at the DPW, you can get them. The ADA compliance, one of the things we're looking at as an improvement, there are blue pads that you can get that make it easier to go across the sand and everything for anyone in a wheelchair. So we're going to be looking at buying some of those. And hopefully, again, it's the supply, but we are looking at it after July 1st. We're going to try to get them ordered and in place.
So similar to what you might see at the dunes at the beach.
Yes, exactly.
They have them actually at, Scussett Beach. If you go down there, they have them going right off the little boardwalk down. And it's quite awesome. They have them, I think, at, I don't know, Old Silver and Falmouth. They're very much out there. Yes. So they're pretty cool. They stay above the sand and then you can go right down to the water.
And one of the things that we're looking at, one of the things we're also looking at is hopefully getting some, like a boardwalk built. And I would think that might be a great Eagle Scout.
Project.
And I'm thinking Eagle Scout might have some contacts there. It would be a great Eagle Scout process to do. They are working on, in the toddler area, it will be replaced this week where there's been some wood stuff rotting. They also are scheduled for weed whacking tomorrow, so that will help. We're looking at reviewing some new things for next year to maybe make it a little more pleasant there and to make it, to bring it up a couple levels. So we will be in the works with that. I'm working with Jesse and Sean and Barbara as far as improvements there. We'll probably start coming before the board in September so that we can start the process and see what everyone thinks. We have the retirement party for Chief Daigle that is in July. So if anyone's interested, you can get the tickets. The retirement party for Chief Gentile at Coachman was very, very nice. It was very pleasant. We had a good time. I think we had a good turnout. Don't you think, Mike?
Yeah, it was an exciting evening. We had more than 100 people and some woman was very lucky that we had 25 firefighters there because she could go out in ambulance.
Yeah.
Well, the excitement, it's,
I was
Best
sad
care
to,
anywhere.
yep.
I was sad to miss it because I was out of town, but I was glad that I was able to come into town hall and chat with Steve before he.
Reverend Soda did a great job as master of ceremony.
Yep, and they did a beautiful shadow box with a big axe and everything. It was very, very good. So that was good. The Pride Festival was Saturday and it
Rain
was,
stopped just in the right time.
what?
The rain stopped.
Well, no, actually, because when I was there, I was doing a meet and greet and it was kind of spitting rain off and on. When I was done, then the sun came out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Of
yeah,
course,
they-
Michael.
Of course. But we had a real good turnout, a lot of vendors, lots of vendors. And everyone seemed to be having a great time. Lots of kids there and fun games and food. We had good food trucks there. So it was nice. I was taking pictures to send to Dennis. As the conflict of interest for those of you who are relatively new to the board, I just want to point out that, and for those who are on, every couple of years, we're supposed to take the conflict of interest exam. I'm going to be getting the paperwork out to everyone so that you can go online and do the test and get it done so that we can get it in. It is online and it's about an hour now, I think, but we need to have it done and on file.
You can't skip through it.
And do you want us to print it out to
You can
bring
get it to
into
me.
your office?
Yep.
Okay,
Because what we'll do is we'll put it in your file.
Yeah.
And then we'll send it up to the town office.
perfect.
And finally, our projects in town, everyone, I've got the center and South Main Street. The South Main Street, Jesse wanted me to point out that they are way ahead of schedule. In fact, they're almost an entire season ahead of schedule.
Yep,
So that's fantastic. They are working on everything, trying to get that done. The town center, obviously, they are moving along very quickly and they're a little bit ahead of schedule, but they are working diligently to get that done. July 10th is the proposed date of paving. So we have that to look forward to, so hopefully hopefully the weather will hold and we can get that done. And the additional paving will be from town center to the North Main Bridge approximately. So then they will be looking at the driveway aprons, so that if we get a call from residents or anything, we'll be looking at that.
And some residents have sorry, I don't mean to give some residents have reached out here and there when they've been digging, like the section of South Main from Blackstone down to the center. The contractor who did all the initial digging had not done a driveway for a resident, and we called Jesse, he got someone right out there to fix it, so it's, everyone's working pretty well. I could not believe after Beth and I met with DOT and the contractors, about a month and a half ago, to get an update on the Blackstone Street to Easy Street, Douglas Drive section.
Yeah,
Because they were a little behind and we were thinking August to be done for this section. I drove down it today and went, holy cow, we're ready for sidewalks. So that's pretty awesome.
We still have to mill the intersection in front of the middle school. They're gonna do that.
Yeah.
so those are the two big projects. Tim, do we have anything exciting?
Well, so, we talked about, Dennis and I talked about, Domino's at site, and what we were gonna, eventually do with that area. So, I guess if anybody has any input on that, I'd like to come up with a landscaping plan and some kind of a signage. Take down that guardrail that dissects the Domino's to the,
Yeah.
I want to get rid of that, and, the contractors out there now, I approached him, asked him if he could clean up some of the stumps and stuff that's out of his realm, but he has a junk pile and he has no problem. He said he'd try to dispose of that stuff. I want to get a grade going so it flows nice next door, and then, we want to come up with something that, kind of, designates the center.
Comment on to the historical, so we have recently purchased a sign that's going to go on the left side of the building, like just to tell people that it is a museum, because we have the visibility now there, so that will be installed after July 1st. And maybe we should be consulted over what the plan is gonna be, because I think it's gonna impact what our building is. Unless it's just gonna be brass, then we're fine with it.
No, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm
Yeah.
getting at, as a, maybe put our heads together with a landscaping plan.
Yeah, I think we'd just like the historical commission would like to be aware of what's happening there, so we know how it's gonna impact our building. Thanks.
And I just have a question, in front of the middle school, what is that supposed to be? It looks like they're building a swimming pool.
Can I? So that is, it's actually a rain garden. So eventually those orange, the things that are around it will be taken down. They've put the plantings in it, the rock in it, and there are trees. You can actually see them. So the school department actually worked with the contractor and the people designing it, so that they can actually use it as a learning tool for the environmental science classes, because it's a rain garden, but it's our stormwater basin. So the way it's designed is that the water flows into it and then uses the rocks in the soil and is moved away. So eventually, when those orange barriers come down, and obviously the grass on either side of those orange barriers is kind of, could use some weed whacking too. So once those are down and you can fully see the plantings, the shrubs, the trees, and they're all in there designed to disperse the water quickly. But Pete Morano, because I reached out back, I think in the winter, or the fall about it. And he was involved with the design process along with Dave Cutler, who's the principal at BMS, so that they can use it as a learning tool for us.
That's fine, I was just.
I would add that
Yeah.
it's
I
glorified
was trying to
retention
figure it
pond.
out.
I was thinking the word pond, because pond is something that is stagnant
Glorified
and
rain
stays there.
But as part of the funding for that project, we were required to mitigate the impervious surfaces. And that was the area that was best suited for it.
So I would never guess that one.
There was, I believe there are 35 locations in town that if we do projects, we have to add more of them, either by buying people's properties to put them in or using existing, and because of that project, we had to
The
select.
only other question I have is, why can't we replace, you've got all, if you're going that way, why can't we replace some of the common that they took away when they widened the road? They did take a section of the common out here away, just move it down.
That's a
You
good
know what I'm
question.
talking about?
For infiltration,
You know how they took some of the.
the frontage out here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just move it down and give them some benches and
Yeah, I was on something.
they took trees.
Yeah, so there's no landscaping going in the front, right? What you're gonna see now is just grass. There is a little bit of landscaping incorporated to the, if you're facing the old town hall to the left, they had to landscape that bank. But so the front is all gonna be grass. So you're saying, why not,
Well, because they took everything away that we were to have planted.
yeah, well, so that's my point. That's my point. Maybe we should set up a committee or something to, to design
Yeah,
something.
something, you know, I mean, it was beautiful out there. It was really gorgeous and
I mean, I
people
think,
love to sit out
well,
there.
I think a lot of people probably are interested in that, and I think it's a good idea to maybe set something up.
Yeah.
Or just
somebody-
have a meeting like
If
a,
somebody wants to spearhead it,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we should do it because it's the face of the town. A lot of people are interested in it, and I think it's a nice area that you could really make something of.
Well, we all were involved when it was built.
Right.
So when I was town clerk, we're all involved in the making of that town common.
Yeah.
Called the mini town common, but
So the sprinkler system, they tore up a lot of the sprinkler zones, so we're getting that fixed now. We're rebuilding the valve for it. It's all gonna be up. It's gonna grow nice. It's gonna really look nice, so it's gonna support whatever we wanna do there.
oh, good.
So,
Good. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate time you give. Curious.
All right, I believe that satisfies our agenda. We,
You're gonna ask for an executive session?
Yes, can I have an executive session?
So I'm gonna pull the board to go into executive
for the
session.
reason.
contract
So,
negotiations.
C 30A 21A2, discuss strategy with respect to contract negotiations with non-union personnel for a discussion of open session would undermine the town's negotiating position.
Right, and I'm gonna take a roll call vote. Nancy, Ms. Connor,
Yes,
Mr. Dean,
Yes.
and
be no further comment after that meeting. And a motion to adjourn this regular open.
I don't want to, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I was gonna ask that earlier. How often do we update, the website for all the boards and committees, positions, all that kind of stuff?
as often as they become available, or is there something that needs to be updated?
Yeah, maybe somebody can figure it out.
Okay, yep, just give
What
me
is-
a,
yeah,
give me
what
a
needs
call. You can
be
give me a
updated?
Give me a call.
Thank you all for
Do we
attending.
do it?
Welcome.
All those in favor for adjourning, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?